Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranam devotees, begging for the causeless mercy of my Guru Parapadma, Nitya Lila Praveshtam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa, Ashtottara Satasisima Chula Bhakti, Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and also on to all of my Shiksha Gurus, Rupanuga Guru Vaga, and to all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So Dandavat Pranam devotees. So this is like the third sort of installment in a kind of series of speaking about and discussing the issue of the Svarupa of the Jiva and acknowledging that there are other angles of vision on this topic and trying to, from Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra, present various ways to look at those different angles of vision. An angle of vision is called drishtikon. Drishtikon means literally an angle of vision. So a classic example would be if you have two people standing on either side of the number 6, they will have a different view of that number. Some will see standing at one side the number 9, standing on the other side obviously the number 6. So the only way to understand that number truly is to circle yourself in a position where you can see from the angle of vision of the other person. So anytime that we're discussing a nuanced siddhanta like this, it's necessary to actually look at both sides of the angles of vision, and then it'll be easier to find how it's reconciled. Sometimes if our vision is myopic in terms of being able to see the full range of statements and sastric statements and statements of Sri Gurudev and statements of our Guru Vargas on a particular topic like this, then it becomes very difficult to find the reconciliation. And of course, I quoted the verse maybe in 2 series ago, that anytime there is something which has an apparent contradiction, then we should not dismiss it, but rather we should study it carefully to look for how it is reconciled. Right? So that's been our process over these last 3 presentations here, is looking at how this issue is reconciled. So you can go back and look at the other tapes so that I'm not repeating myself and elongating the sessions here. Today, the basic discussion was around the what is the relationship of Sadhu Sanga and Svarupa Shakti to the conversation regarding the Svarupa of the Jiva. So somehow or another, it's perceived that there is a argument that has arisen, or a debate that has arisen, based on whether or not the nature of the perfection of a jiva is substantively inherent, potentially inherent, or is given from an outside source by a guru or sadhu. So, of course, that's like a one-sided view of things. In other words, somebody's saying, well, this is the argument. The argument is only, or the discussion is only, whether or not bhakti is substantively inherent, or whether or not it's given from an outside source. So here I've expanded the idea already by suggesting that the discussion is really about whether or not bhakti is substantively inherent, potentially inherent, and whether or not it comes from an outside source in the form of guru or sadhu. So first thing to address is the relationship of Guru and Sadhu to the idea of the Svarupa of the Jiva. So, of course, you can find immediately several sastric statements. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoy Sadhu Sanga. The root cause of bhakti is Sadhu Sanga. Then there are several verses that glorify the importance of Sadhu Sanga. Sadhu Sanga, Sava Shastre Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sanga, Sava Siddhi Hoy. And one that I think is very special and pertinent, and which I will use as the template to describe sort of the actuality of the relationship of Sadhu Sanga to the Svarupa of the Jiva. Santam prasangam amavir samvido bhavanti rit karana rasanaya kata tajosar asu apavagavatmani shraddha rati bhakti anukramishati. So I'll put in the comments where in Bhagavatam this verse is found. So this verse really gives an insight into the relationship, I believe, as a very good template to understand the relationship of Sadhu Sangha to the Svarupa of the Jiva. So, first of all, let's go to sort of a reference point to understand why we're even discussing the issue. So, does the Bada Jiva, because take Nitya Siddhas out of this conversation, because there is no discussion. Nitya Siddhas are completely endowed with perfection, so there is no discussion related to them. So now, and actually this was very helpful, and actually a god brother and very good friend of mine, he mentioned, actually Mukunda Prabhu, almost always in the conversation, there might be some confusion because we're talking about jivas in general, but certainly we have to remove the Nitya Siddhas from the conversation because they are already accomplished and perfect, and this really doesn't apply to them. So we're talking about the Bada Jiva. And the question is whether or not Sadhu Sangha is the source of the Bada Jiva's obtaining a perfection, or, as we mentioned earlier, is it already either substantively or potentially inherent in the Bada Jiva? So in this verse, Santam Prasanga Mamaveya Samvido, right? It's very interesting because it's mentioned here, Santam obviously means sadhus. Prasanga means Prakrishtrupain Sangha, right? Santam Prasangam. So here this Prasanga means association in a very special way. So normally doing Sangha means Samyak Rupain Anugamana. So still it means completely associating with a sadhu with body, mind, mood, words, everything. So prasanga has the same implication, fully associating with the sadhu, not just by tenure or time or proximity, closeness, but it means maybe all of that, but certainly by heart, by feeling, by love and affection, in all ways associating with a sadhu in a very deep way. This is doing prasanga. So why? Because Mama Virya Samvido. Now the normal translation, which I should have pulled this verse up. I'll go ahead and attempt to pull it up here. I just didn't want to detract so much from the time, but let me see, maybe I'll pull it up. Well, actually the iPad is struggling. So anyways, so Mama Virya Samvido has normally been translated as the sadhu being able to, or guru being able to tell about the powerful pastimes of the Lord. But there's also another meaning here to Mama Virya Samvido, right? So Mama Virya means my Virya. So that person who is capable of embodying and carrying Krishna's Virya. Virya here means Shakti, or power. If you look in the dictionary, Sanskrit dictionary, Virya also means power, right? Or potency. So that person who is carrying Krishna's potency. This is also the meaning of Mama Virya, Samvido, and who has expertise in bringing out that potency in the form of their Harikatha, their instructions, etc. So this is Santam Prasanga Mamavirya Samvido. Who can bring out the potency of Bhagavan through their instructions, through their Harikatha, etc. This is Santam, this is Sadhu in the model of Bhakti. Right? Now, what is that potency power that the Sadhu brings out in their Harikatha? That potency or power is Svarupa Shakti. Because it's mentioned that Svarupa Shakti resides in the hearts of pure devotees. Just like, I think it is Chaitanya Charitamrita of Murari Gupta, could be, but there's one verse that describes the nature of Srivas. Like in the Panchatattva, Srivas is considered the representation of pure devotion. Right? So it's mentioned there, Shri Bhakti Rasa Hridoya Tvam Attaha Srivas Uchyate. Your name is Srivas because Sri, right, with Bhakti Ras is residing in your heart. Therefore you are named Srivas. You understand? So without the pure devotee, the nature of Bhagavan, his Nam, Rup, Gun, Lila, Parikar, Dham, everything, without Svarupa Shakti, it is not revealed. So the fact that the Sadhu is the carrier of Svarupa Shakti is why Sadhu Sanga is so important. So I'm giving an example, like in one understanding of the Panchatattva. It is explained that Panchatattva Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So it's described that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Bhakta Rup. The Bhakta Rup in its highest manifestation is where the highest manifestation of Prem has brought Sri Radha Krishna together in one form in order to experience that Prem. Prem Rasniyas Karite Ashwadan. This is the highest form of the Bhakta Rup. In Krishna Leela, the two forms of Radha and Krishna are constantly engaged in Leela, in tasting that Rup. But when the Prem becomes so high that it takes over the lover and the beloved and makes them one, this is the height of Prem. And Gaur Leela is the Ordodhya, the magnificent manifestation of that ideal. So Mahaprabhu is called the Bhakta Rup. What reveals the Bhakta Rup is the Swarup. So I've often given the example, the Rup of something, like the form of something, the only way for you to understand it is if it is revealed somehow. So I've given the example, if someone knocks on your door, you open the door and you see a form standing there. They don't say anything. You don't have any knowledge of who they are or anything. How long will you stand there with the door open before that person begins to speak, identify themselves, give some idea of what they want, so you have a revelation of what this Rup is, what this form is? If somebody says, oh, hi, I'm your cousin John, I'm Aunt Sally's son, I was in the area and I just stopped. So now suddenly that form, which you had no understanding or relation to, now is become a cognitive experience. Oh, this is my cousin, and that you have some relationship with them. So, oh, please come in, please, sit down, have something to eat, etc. So there needs to be revelation when you see a Rup. So the Bhakta Rup, which is the personification of the things I mentioned before, is revealed by Akhanda Guru Tattva Nityananda. So he's called the Bhakta Swarup because he reveals the nature of Mahaprabhu. You cannot approach Mahaprabhu without Nityananda. The Leela of Raghunath Das Goswami was to show this in some ways. That, oh, trying to approach Mahaprabhu without coming to Nityananda, oh, Raghunath, you're like a thief. So please engage in my save and the save of all the Vaishnavas. You understand? Now, even when there is revelation, it has to come into your purview, into your experience. So Advaita Acharya is the avatar of bringing the revealed reality of the Bhakta Rup into our purview by letting it descend into this Bulok where Mahaprabhu performs his pastimes, and we can now remember only 500 and something years ago, Mahaprabhu in this holy Dham of Navadvip performed this Leela, that Leela, etc., etc. And by the mercy of Akhanda Guru Tattva Sri Nityananda, it has been revealed and Advaita Acharya has caused its descent. But even when it descends and its revelation is taking place, not everybody will get that revelation unless they are endowed with the Shakti, the power, Svarupa Shakti, in incremental stages to understand it. That Bhakti Shakti, Bhaktya Sanjatya Bhaktya. Bhakti comes from Bhakti. And Bhakti Devi personified as Srimati Radhika. So Srimati Radhika descends as Gadadhara Pandit, which is the distributor of Bhakti Shakti. The power to be able to understand what it is that Sri Advaita Acharya caused to descend and what Sri Nityananda Prabhu is revealing. Now, how will we have access to that? Through the pure devotee. Therefore, Srivas is an indispensable part of the reality of these five truths, which is the pure devotee. Because Sri Bhakti Ras Hridaya Tvam Ata Srivas Uchite. He's carrying Swarup Shakti in his heart. Therefore, the pure devotee reveals through Swarup Shakti everything regarding Gaura and Sri Radha Krishna Yuga. So this is the importance of Sadhu Sanga. So Santam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido means this. You understand? It means the pure devotee who's carrying Swarup Shakti in their hearts, right? They can, through that, Bhavanti Rit Karana Rasanayakata. Because this Swarup Shakti is a transcendental phenomenon, it can enter the air, but it can bypass all of the mundane filters of the chitta that has been dominated by the modes of nature and material energy and avidya. It can bypass that, break that, and enter into the heart of the Bada Jiva. When it enters into the heart of the Bada Jiva, Tajosud Asu Apavargavatmani. I talked the other day about the nature of Abhinivesh, which is a feature of avidya that keeps the Bada Jiva bound and doesn't allow him by his own endeavor, her own endeavor, to get out. Swato na sambhavanti anya. Srimad Bhagavatam 22:10. Right? What is it? 11:22:10. It doesn't allow the jiva to extricate himself. This is called Abhinivesh. But when that sadhu, guru, through the Swarup Shakti, Bhagavan's own Shakti, Mamavirya, in their samvad, gives Harikatha, then Tajosa Asu Apavargavatmani. It enters the ear, goes to the heart, and breaks that Abhinivesh, causing the progressive realization of Bhagavan through Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, Anukramishati, in a crumb, following one after another, beginning with Shraddha. That powerful Swarup Shakti coming in the Harikatha of the Vaishnava breaks the Abhinivesh of the Jiva and allows them Shraddha Anupayani Rajam Bhakti Unmukhi Chittavritti Visesh, allows their Chittavrittis to now turn towards serving Bhagavan. So Sadhu Sanga therefore is indispensable because it is the container of Swarup Shakti. So now it's always asked, well, is the Ras perfection of the Jiva coming from the Sadhu? Are they giving this? So now we need a small lesson in history. So during the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I would venture probably to say before that, but certainly during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we know he acknowledged 13 Apasampradayas. And among those Apasampradayas, he named the Jat Gosai. So Jat Gosai means those who identify either by familial connection or by Diksha to being directly in the line of one of the associates of Sriman Mahaprabhu. Now, in the course of that history of these lines descending, then obviously it's possible that in some cases, some corruption could take place. It does not hold water that the entire lines of all the pariwars are somehow or another corrupted. It could be that some individuals, just like within our Bhaktivinoda Dhar and the Gaudiya Math, etc., there may be some corruption. So even during the time of Mahaprabhu, 3 sons of Advaita Acharya, there was some corruption. So try to understand that it does not indicate that all the party wars are somehow corrupted, right? But there are some cases of the demonstration of corruption, and part of that corruption was telling people the only way for you to get siddhi in the process that Mahaprabhu gave is to come to us, and we'll have to give you that siddhi. That siddhi is actually coming for us. We're the holders of that siddhi, and through the process of Ekadas Bhav, and I'm not going to get into that discussion because Ekadas Bhav, Siddha Pranali, even though it appears the first time in that order, Siddha Pranali, in the writing of Jnana Chandra Goswami, the disciple of Gopal Guru Goswami in the line of Akeshwar Pandit, the conception is somewhat there in our Goswami's writing, in, for instance, Jiva Goswami mentioning Vishesham Gyan. So you could take this to mean very specific detailed information about Bhagavan and your relationship with Bhagavan. So normally, the indication is that when you receive your Diksha mantras, that Gurudev gives an indication, like a seed in the mantra, of your Ishtadev and your Visay Sambandha Gyan with that Ishtadev. So that when you're doing bhajan life, you have a sense of a goal, a sadhya. Because sadhana means a sadhya. You have to have a goal. And I have to have a frame of reference for my practice. So Gurudev gives that in the form of a Diksha mantra. Now, if the disciple, based on their bhakti sanskars, have come to a point of maturity that when they hear the Visay Sambandha Gyan given by Gurudev, like in the example of Sannyasi Thakur, who obviously had enough bhakti sanskars that when he saw a Vaishnav, even though he had become a liberated person, he had attraction for that Vaishnav that led to his association with Premdas Babaji, by which he was able to immediately receive the full identity of his spiritual relationship. Oh, silence that monkey, you are Kakati. Your name is Ramana Manjari. Right? In the Antradasha of Premdas Babaji, he identified the Swarup, the Siddha Swarup of Sannyasi Thakur. You understand? But Sannyasi Thakur had quality for that. On the other hand, Brajanath and Vijay Kumar, they went to Gopal Guru Goswami, but he did not immediately identify their Swarup. When they came to the stage of Ruchi, he did Ruchi Pariksha. He examined what Ruchi they had. What do you like? What do you like? Then he identified. So this is the norm for sadhakas, that we go through incremental stages of bhajan life, and when we come to the stage of Ruchi, and there is a fixed and realized substance to some degree on the chitta, and we go before Gurudev, and Gurudev examines that Ruchi, and then gives bhajan siksha according to that Ruchi to crystallize it. Right? That's the normative process. So we can see that the sadhu, their role, their relationship with manifesting the Siddha Swarup of the Jiva is based on their being able to distribute Swarup Shakti. So unlike what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had encountered in the Jatko side, where there was the idea that we have a magic mantra, so to speak, and we have to give you that Swarup, here Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, no, there's inherent potentiality in the Jiva, and that the elements of Swarup Shakti are the revelatory powers that manifest the actual nature of that potential and make it realized. So you don't have to go to the Jatko side to receive a special mantra from them in the form of Siddha Pranali, etc., in order to get your siddhi. You only need to take up bhajan, which is also composed of Swarup Shakti in various degrees. Take up the practice of bhajan in the anugatya of a sadhu who's in possession of Swarup Shakti, and then in incremental stages, that Swarup Shakti will unfold in your chitta, and finally in the stage of bhav, it will be crystallized. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all of our acharyas have mentioned the indispensability of sadhu sanga for this reason, that the sadhu is the container of Swarup Shakti. Now let me read something directly. I read it the other day, but I'm going to reiterate it because I think it's important from our Guru Parapadma, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. So here on page 24, I think it is. Let me get to that page. Yeah. He's describing that perfectional bhav for which we are doing sadhana. Kriti sajja bhavet sajja bhavasa sadhanavida nitya siddha sabhavasha prakritam riddhi sadyata. To manifest that eternal nitya siddha bhav, we're doing sadhana for that. So Gurudev describes how and where that nitya siddha bhav is held. So first of all, he is saying that this statement is to remove, because this is, if you read the commentary of Jiva Goswami Pad, he's saying the same exact thing, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad. But Srila Gurudev is mentioning here that a doubt may arise that because it appears, right? It appears that from the practice of sadhana, this nitya siddha bhav appeared. But then the contradiction will be, if it's nitya siddha bhav, it is a eternally existing bhav, how come it only manifested when I did sadhana? Right? So the bhav is eternal. It's a nitya siddha bhav. So where was that nitya siddha bhav prior to me coming in contact with it, realizing it through my practice of sadhana? So Gurudev says, to remove this doubt, the word nitya siddha has been used in this verse in order to dispel it, to dispel that doubt, that the siddha is nitya, right? It's not produced by your sadhana. So then he says, bhav is an eternally, meaning the nitya siddha bhav is an eternally accomplished phenomenon. It is nitya siddha. It always exists, listen carefully, it always exists in the eternal associates, nitya parikars of Bhagavan. So now Gurudev has said so many times in so many lectures that the Bhada Jiva, you have an eternal Ras, form, everything there within you, right? Or within the constitution, or within your soul. He's described in so many ways. But it is now latent or dormant or unmanifest. So here the question is this a contradictory statement? Is it actually substantively in the Bhada Jiva? Or, as he's saying here, and I'm going to finish this so it makes sense, that this nitya siddha bhav is in the eternal associates of Bhagavan. This nitya siddha bhav manifests itself from the Lord's eternal associates. So now if we have a nitya siddha bhav, it would not be a question of the nitya siddha bhav manifesting from the eternal associates. It could be inspiring our nitya siddha bhav to come out. It could be so many things, but it can't be coming from them. If the argument is that we already have the substantive nitya siddha bhav and it's simply unmanifest. So let's go on and then we'll get into understanding it more. The nitya siddha bhav manifests itself from the Lord's eternal associates into the heart of the purified jiva. Then he quotes the Bengali translation of the verse, Kriti Sajja Bhavet Sajja. This is verified in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila 22:107. Nitya siddha Krishna prema sajja kabunoi, Shravanari surichite karya idoi. Then Srila Gurudev gives a translation. Krishna prema is an eternally established reality. It is not brought about by sadhana. It has automatically manifest itself in the heart of the purified jiva by the performance of the various limbs of bhakti, such as Shravan, Kirtan, etc. So now, how do we reconcile? Because we have to reconcile, right? Srila Gurudev has definitely said that all of the elements of a nitya siddha bhav, your form, everything else, is there in a latent, dormant, unmanifest condition in the Bhada Jiva. So how do we reconcile it? That's the question. How do you reconcile it? Because he's clearly saying here it comes from the nitya parikars and it is held in the hearts of the nitya parikars. Perhaps it could be that the nitya parikars who are endowed with Svarupa Shakti, that's what differentiates the nitya associates from the Anadi Bhada Jivas, they have Svarupa Shakti. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to make everything consistent here, he also says that the jivas lack chit bhav, right? That means they don't have Svarupa Shakti, right? But he acknowledges, he says that the Svarupa Shakti, of course, because it is the Mool Shakti, everything comes from that. So there's some relation. But he definitely says that the jivas are incomplete Shakti. You understand? Complete would mean they had Svarupa Shakti, like the Nitya Parikars. But they're incomplete, right? So, how do we reconcile that the Nitya Siddha Bhav, containing our everything, imperfection, comes from the eternal associates into the heart of us? How will we understand that? So, my understanding, and Gurudev has mentioned the direct word himself, what exists in the Bada Jiva is a potential. That potential is not like material potential. Because of the constitutional reality that the Jiva is Dasabhuti Harieva Nanyasheva Karachara. Not only is he definitely the Das of Krishna, but you cannot be something else. So this is an assurity that certainly you cannot go on being an Adibada. So there is some point at which you will have to come to the position of your Dasita or Seshita towards Bhagavan. There is no scope for eternally remaining in the status of being a Bada Jiva. So that's one thing. Therefore, the potentiality for that time period when that's going to happen is an eternally manifest reality in the Bada Jiva. Because you cannot be something else. So now, when that potential comes in contact with the substance called Svarupa Shakti, that potential becomes one with it. I read that the other day directly from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Avirbuya manovrito. Vrajayate Sarupatam. Swayam Prakasha Rupopi, Basamana Prakashava. So I read it directly. You can go to the previous session and you can hear that and you'll have the reference for where it is. So it says that Svarupa Shakti comes onto the Chitta, takes it over and becomes one with it. Whereas the Atma had previously been vicariously caught in the web of the Avijja Shakti, and therefore on their Chitta, the three modes of material nature were carrying out various things, and the Jiva from the position of their own Swarupa, because Swarupa has many meanings here. So Swarupa also means the nature of the soul. So Jiva Goswami Parim Paramatma Sandarbha, he went over the ontological position of the Swarupa of the Jiva, not bound by Avijja and not endowed with Swarupa Shakti. He described 21 categories or qualities. One of those categories is Eka Rupa Swarupa Bhav. The Jiva is a uniform entity who is always situated, because Navikari is another quality of the Jiva, always situated in their nature as being the soul. So, Asangohi Anyam Purushaha, the soul never actually touches material energy. It's all vicarious. By absorption, Abhinavesh, the Chitta is reflecting the modes of material nature, and the Jivas have been identifying it from Anagikal. But now, Swarupa Shakti descends onto the Chitta, takes over the functions of the Chitta. And now, because of the nature of Swarupa Shakti being a spiritual substance, the soul no longer has the position where it cannot become one, because the Jiva can never become the mundane material energy. But the Jiva can become one with Swarupa Shakti. Do you understand? The soul has the quality of being Satchidananda. Therefore, it can become one with Swarupa Shakti. Narada Muni described this phenomenon. Prayujamani mai tuam sudim bhagavatim tanung prabda karma nirvano anyapatat panchabodhika. That when he became fully realized, prayuj. So it's translated as awarded. So because without the mercy of Bhagavan, the mercy of Bhagavan's devotees, this union between the pure soul and Swarupa Shakti does not take place. You need the Kripa of Bhagavan. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lala Bij. You need their mercy. So it's not the Guru who is giving a Ras. The Guru is giving Svarup Shakti, and Svarup Shakti is revealing a Ras. And the soul becomes one with that Svarup Shakti. And what Svarup Shakti reveals, the body of a gopi, the body of a cowherd boy, whatever it might be that's become mature in your ruchi, that is your eternal identity. And because that is an eternal identity, Srila Gurudev has spoken from that perspective. Yes, you have an eternally fixed Ras that's already there, etc., etc. From this angle of vision, Gurudev has spoken like that. Because Gurudev is seeing the entire progression, the entire picture, all the angles. That's why also we can say that Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jiva Goswami were not speaking two different things. Their presentations were unique. But they were not speaking two different things, because when you look at the overarching picture from both directions, they did not contradict each other. It depends on how you digest what it is Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. And of course, coming in Bhaktivinoda Dhara, Srila Gurudev. So if we understand that latent, dormant, and unmanifest is the potentiality of the Jiva for a particular kind of Ras, due to the influence of Svarup Shakti coming from a Sadhu Guru that unfolds over the course of time and produces in various stages different levels of realization about the eternality of a particular Ras in relation to Krishna, it makes sense. Then it makes sense. If we declare that the substance, which is Svarup Shakti, because Svarup Shakti is what the rasa, the staibhav, the siddhadeha, it's composed of those things. If we suggest that is somehow present with the Bhada Jiva, then first of all, you have the complication that the very nature of Svarup Shakti is Swayam Prakash. It is self-revealing. Sudha Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam. When it is present, it uncovers Bhagavan. So even if the Jiva, his consciousness, Maya Vritta Jnana Sarupanam, because Jiva Goswami says the consciousness, the chitta of the Jiva is covered, not the Jiva himself. One devotee acknowledged that the other day, and I said, yes, that's a fact. Jiva Goswami says it, Maya Vritta Sarupa Jnananam. His knowledge of his Swarup is coming. But here the word Swarup means knowledge of the fact that he's a soul, not the body. Not necessarily the fact that he's a Nityapari, that he's a gopi or cowherd boy, etc. Because we read from Brihad Bhagavatamrita also in these sessions, and it was clear. And even in the case of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to make it come full circle from Sanatana Goswami Pad to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that one may become free from the influence of the coverings of Maya and not realize themselves in a particular rasa with Krishna, but realize themselves to be a soul, an Atma, and they will experience Atma Ananda. If they realize by their practice Brahman, they'll realize Brahm Ananda. In what is that? Sayuja Mukti. They'll realize Brahmananda. If they have not committed the aparad of ascribing the form of Bhagavan to be Maya, which is Mayavadis, they are different from Brahmavadis. If they are Mayavadis and they ascribe the aparad of thinking Bhagavan's form when it appears here is a manifestation within the purview of Maya, they are called Mayavadis. So for them, they may free themselves from the coverings of ignorance, but it is temporary. Ye nevravindakshavi mukti maninas twai astabavad avisudabudi. They have not actually contacted any sense of Svarup Shakti. Therefore, they cannot experience any kind of relation to Bhagavan, not even Brahmananda. They will experience Atma Ananda, but it will be temporary because they're implicated in the aparad to Bhagavan. Therefore, again, they will come back to the material world. Understand? So, what is the relationship of the Sadhu to the Swarup of the Jiva? Hopefully, we were able to, by Sadhu and Sastra, reveal that relationship. So sometimes people are giving a contracted, myopic argument. Either you accept that everything substantively is present in the Bhada Jiva, or you're saying that it is coming from outside given by Sadhu or Guru. But nobody's saying that. That's not the discussion. People are acknowledging, like all of our acharyas have acknowledged, that the repository of Svarupa Shakti is in the eternal associate. Those eternal associates descend to this world as sadhus, gurus, real sadhus, gurus. They are the carriers of Svarupa Shakti. Therefore, when you meet Sadhu Guru, what is being given to you is not the Guru giving you a Ras, it is the Guru giving you the potency of Svarupa Shakti, which reveals your Ras. So, hopefully this was helpful in understanding the relation of Sadhu Sanga to the unfoldment and development of the Svarupa of the Jiva. My Dandavat Pranam, Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvayevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.